The phone rang just after noon, sunlight warming the living room walls, and for a moment I thought it was just a routine update. But the second I heard the lawyer's voice, tight, hesitant, my heart started pounding. Then the words hit me like a brick to the chest. My auntie had been excluded from Uncle Robert's will. I felt the room tilt. Paper slid from my fingers as I stared at the letter, the ink swimming. Around me, my family looked on with those thin, satisfied smirks, like they'd been waiting for this moment. Whispered comments floated through the room, slicing into me before I could even absorb what was happening. Diane stepped forward first. Of course she did. She put a delicate hand on my shoulder, her voice coated in fake sweetness. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way," she said, but her eyes sparkled with triumph. That look alone sent me spiraling back into the memory of those childhood summers at the estate. Auntie laughing in the garden, teaching me how to braid roses into the fence. She had been the heart of this family. And now, this? The lawyer's voice kept echoing in my head, cold and final. This is the official will. Official, as if that word alone erased decades of love and loyalty. I felt heat rising to my face as I imagined neighbors already sharing the news, twisting it, enjoying it. My hand closed around the edge of the document so tightly that the paper sliced through my skin. A small line of blood surfaced, mixing with the tremble of disbelief in my fingers. I couldn't breathe inside that house. I pushed myself up and walked through the hallways, every portrait watching me like some cruel audience. The frames glimmered under the chandelier light, mocking me with their frozen smiles. I stopped under one, Uncle Robert standing proudly beside Auntie, her laughter caught mid-glow. Now that warmth felt worlds away from the icy weight of the moment. Behind me, Diane's laughter cracked through the air, sharp, bright, and merciless. It bounced off the walls and chased me down the staircase like a taunt. I paused halfway down, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. I felt anger, sorrow, helplessness, every emotion twisting inside me so violently I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. By nightfall, I had escaped to the porch. The estate lights flickered across the lawn, casting long shadows that stretched toward me like reminders of everything being stolen. I sat there for hours, letting the cold air sting my face while my mind replayed every detail, every whisper, every falsified smile. And somewhere between grief and fury, a single thought solidified in my chest. This wasn't the end. This betrayal, this calculated humiliation would not stand. Not for Auntie. Not for what she meant to me. Not for the truth they thought they could bury. I made a silent vow right there under the trembling porch light. This wasn't over. And when it was, they would regret underestimating me. The memories hit me like a tidal wave. As a child, Auntie had been my constant, my safe harbor when my parents were too busy or too distant to notice. She taught me to tie my shoes, to read between the lines of people's words, to save every dollar for a rainy day. Those secret lessons, financial tips, little life hacks, moral compasses were her way of shaping me into someone who could survive in a world full of quiet betrayals. I remember Uncle Robert's subtle favoritism toward Diane, the way he smiled at her first at family dinners, the way his eyes lingered approvingly on her accomplishments while Auntie's sacrifices went unnoticed. Those tiny gestures didn't escape me, even then. The first hints of betrayal had been small, almost invisible. Offhanded remarks about inheritance, dismissive comments when Auntie spoke, documents I didn't understand but sensed were manipulated. Even as a child, I made a silent promise to myself. I would protect her, repay her kindness if life ever turned cruel. Auntie's devotion was endless, invisible to everyone outside our little bubble. I remembered nights she stayed awake nursing sick cousins, whispering soothing words while hiding her own exhaustion and pain, And yet, the family turned toward Diane in critical moments, ignoring Auntie's devotion, siding with deception over loyalty. Looking back, the warning signs had been there all along. Documents glanced over, subtle legal manipulations, hushed conversations that adults dismissed as trivial, and I had been powerless, failing her in moments I swore I would never fail. Family dinners replayed in my mind, Diane subtly humiliating her, making pointed remarks that adults laughed off or ignored. I felt a tangle of guilt, regret, and anger, each emotion feeding the fire that was now burning inside me. Every holiday, every birthday she had sacrificed for others flashed before my eyes. Every forgotten wish, every selfless act, now transformed into moral outrage. And then the truth crystallized. This exclusion from the will was not an accident. It was premeditated. It was cruel. Aunty, trusting and blind to the undercurrents of family greed, remained unaware of the danger. Her vulnerability, once comforting to me, now ignited a deep, unrelenting resolve. I would not let this go. I could not. This wound was personal, and it demanded justice. I moved like a shadow through the estate, careful not to draw attention, my fingers tracing the edges of old legal files and faded correspondence. Every envelope, every folded letter felt heavier than its weight in paper, each one a potential key to undoing the injustice done to Aunty. Among the dust-stained ledgers and brittle envelopes, I uncovered hints, letters tucked in corners, drafts of an earlier will, clearly favoring Aunty. My pulse quickened. Proof existed, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to find it. But Diane wasn't blind. She sensed my investigation, her smiles tightening, her tone sharpening in family conversations. She began to control the narrative, weaving a story where I was the reckless one, the troublemaker. Extended family members, those I once trusted, began passive-aggressive confrontations, subtle jabs wrapped in polite concern. Each comment tested my patience, each glance a reminder that I was fighting not just for justice, but against the weight of an entire family's complicity. Nights became my domain, walls lined with timelines, legal notes, photographs of signatures, and annotated letters. The house was silent except for the rustle of papers and the hum of my own heartbeat. The adrenaline was intoxicating. Every detail I uncovered sharpened my focus, fueling a fire I could no longer contain. Anger transformed into clarity. The despair of that first reading faded, replaced by a meticulous strategy. I scrutinized every notarized document, signatures slightly off, punctuation altered, dates suspiciously rearranged. Each discrepancy was a thread I could pull to unravel the lies. Even the lawyers seemed complicit at first, evasive and cold, testing my resolve, but their arrogance became my fuel. Memories of protecting Aunty as a child surged back. How I had once shielded her from teasing cousins, how I had silently promised to always stand by her. Those flashes of memory stoked determination into something fierce, unyielding. Diane worked to isolate me socially, whispering insinuations, twisting stories, painting me as unstable. Friends and allies approached cautiously, loyalty tested against the tide of family gossip. Yet, one by one, I discovered hidden allies, secret advisors Aunty had trusted for years, now willing to step into the light and help. The tension was electric. Diane, smug and overconfident, completely underestimated my resolve, unaware of the legal research I had mastered, the documents meticulously cataloged, the plans laid bare in my mind. Each small victory tasted like victory itself. Subtle challenges to Diane's version of events, hints planted to make her question herself, doubt spreading among family members. Every whisper, every carefully placed revelation was a step closer to the reckoning that Aunty deserved, a storm that was slowly, inevitably coming. The phone rang just past midnight, its shrill tone cutting through the silence of my apartment. On the other end, Uncle Robert's old attorney spoke with a quiet urgency I could feel through the line. There's something you need to know. The original will, it was hidden. Diane never deserved what she took. My heart slammed against my ribs. The truth, everything I had feared and suspected, snapped into focus. Diane's manipulation, her smirks, the calculated lies, it all fell into place. Aunty had always been the rightful heir. A surge of validation coursed through me, replacing despair with clarity. This was no longer a battle of uncertainty. It was a fight for justice, a mission grounded in undeniable truth. Then came the protector I hadn't expected, a seasoned lawyer friend, quiet but relentless, offering to take on the case discreetly. Together, we began untangling years of deception. Hidden financial accounts surfaced, funds meticulously set aside for Aunty, buried beneath layers of secrecy and deceit. Diane's instincts were sharp. She sensed the shift, began whispering, gaslighting, probing my reactions, but she didn't know I had proof. I moved in shadows, visiting the lawyer's office under the cloak of night, unlocking safe deposit boxes, sifting through records that could topple her false empire. Every document, every number, every folded letter carried the weight of Auntie's trust. She believed in this family's fairness, blind to the schemes unfolding behind her back. That innocence, juxtaposed with my secret battle, sharpened my resolve. I mapped out the reveal with surgical precision, a public reading at the estate or a courtroom strategy where truth would hit hardest. Nights blurred into one continuous montage, reviewing evidence, rehearsing confrontations, timing every word, every gesture. Fear of failure hovered at the edges of my mind, but it morphed into an unstoppable drive. I could not, would not, allow Auntie's lifetime of loyalty to be erased. Even Diane began to crack, subtle slips in her conversations betraying unease, tension rising like a storm ready to break. And as I sat alone, reviewing every angle, my inner voice balanced rage with patience, impulsive fury with tactical intelligence. Every move from this point forward would be deliberate, every strike precise. The turning point had arrived, the tide was shifting, and soon the reckoning Diane had so arrogantly thought impossible would be inevitable. The day of reckoning arrived, sunlight slicing through the grand windows of the family estate as everyone gathered in tense anticipation. The air crackled with unspoken expectations, whispers bouncing off the high ceilings. I held my breath as the lawyer stepped forward, clearing his throat, and produced the original will. Diane's composure faltered the moment the envelope was opened. Her carefully constructed smile trembled, her eyes darting, desperate for control. As the lawyer read aloud, each word struck like a hammer. Aunty was the rightful heir. Every line, every clause a vindication of years of devotion and sacrifice. The extended family watched in stunned silence, their eyes flicking between Diane and me. Her deception unraveled in real time, a carefully woven facade crumbling before the room's gaze. Murmurs swelled into whispers, whispers into gasps, and Diane's forced calm could not withstand the scrutiny. I stepped forward, voice steady but charged, recounting Auntie's lifelong sacrifices. The nights she stayed awake for sick cousins, the holidays she forgave herself, the countless invisible acts of love and devotion. The emotional weight pressed down on the room. Every ear caught the gravity. Every eye reflected recognition. Diane tried to interject, her voice sharp, but the lawyer's authority silenced her, firm and unyielding. Her protests were drowned by truth, her arrogance laid bare. Auntie's hands shook as she stepped forward, tears streaming freely, her relief and validation flooding the room. Documents, hidden letters, notarized evidence, and financial statements were displayed one by one, irrefutable proof of her rightful inheritance. I turned to Diane, eyes locked, voice calm yet cutting through the tension. Every lie, every manipulation, it ends here. Each word measured, each revelation deliberate. She flinched, powerless as the full scale of her deception came to light. Legally, justice was immediate. The inheritance was corrected, finances restored to their rightful owner, wrongs rectified with meticulous precision. Emotionally, justice rang louder. Diane's reputation fractured, whispers of her schemes now undeniable to every witness. Aunty embraced me, body trembling, gratitude and pride mingling with tears. Around us, family members shifted, some apologizing for past inaction, others silently withdrawing, unable to reconcile with the truth. The final signature sealed the correction. Documents now reflected reality, Diane humiliated by the very arrogance that had fueled her schemes. Later, as the house filled with laughter and celebration, we shared quiet moments of connection, emotional bonding with Aunty, tears of relief, laughter of triumph mingling in a delicate harmony. In that stillness, I reflected on it all. Satisfaction coursed through me, tempered by the bitter weight of family betrayal endured. Justice had been served, but the scars, lessons, and victories remained deeply etched, shaping every heartbeat, every memory, every quiet smile shared with Aunty. After the storm had passed, Aunty pulled me aside, her hands trembling as she spoke. "I don't know how to thank you. Your patience, your determination. I feel safe again." Her relief was palpable, radiating in every line of her face, and I felt the weight of my efforts settle into quiet satisfaction. Diane, once a figure of dominance in the family, now moved through gatherings with diminished authority. Her ego, once inflated by manipulation, had been forced to confront consequences she could not charm away. I sat alone later, reconciling the anger that had consumed me, tracing its edges until I felt growth from the ordeal. The family had fractured, dividing between those who embraced truth and those resentful of exposure, and I learned to navigate those currents with careful awareness. Legal and financial stability had been restored for Aunty. She walked with a serenity she hadn't known in years, her peace secured by justice and truth. Her smiles, heartfelt gratitude, and renewed trust offered emotional reconciliation I had longed to provide. I reflected on the moral complexity of it all, revenge executed not through blind rage, but as strategy, patience, and precision. The catharsis came in understanding that intellect, loyalty, and timing were the true instruments of power. I removed myself quietly from gossip and speculation, focusing instead on healing and rebuilding life with clarity and purpose. Nights on the porch with Aunty became sacred. We watched the stars in silence, serenity returning after chaos, every breath a reminder that the battle had not been in vain. Diane's subtle slips, her forced smiles, and hushed apologies were lessons in humility and consequence, a quiet echo of the reckoning she had faced. Life moved forward. The ordeal left me stronger, wiser, more empathetic. I often sat with letters in my hands, rereading evidence of hidden trauma, witnessing injustice overturned, and savoring the triumph born of patience and strategy. A calm settled within me, an inner peace born from balancing justice with emotional intelligence. Family bonds, though fragile, had been repaired where possible. The journey had been painful, but in its aftermath, strength, clarity, and love endured. I sit before the camera, the soft golden light spilling across my face, catching the scars of humiliation and the quiet triumph etched into my features. Every line tells a story: betrayal, patience, meticulous planning, and ultimate vindication. I speak, my voice steady, carrying the weight of every sleepless night and every calculated step. Being underestimated, I say, is never weakness. It can be the spark for extraordinary strategy if you let it fuel your mind instead of breaking your spirit. Flashbacks cut through my narration. Diane's smug smirks, the confidences whispered by lawyers, the tension thick in the room during the final reading of the original will. Each memory sharp, precise, a reminder of what was at stake and what had been won. I share the lessons carved from this journey: patience that outlasts arrogance, research that uncovers hidden truths, courage in the face of betrayal, emotional intelligence to navigate manipulation, and tactical thinking that turns planning into victory. The satisfaction of justice, both legal and emotional, settles in my chest. Truth has prevailed. not just on paper, but in every heart willing to see it. Protecting those you love is worth meticulous effort, worth every sleepless night, every strategy, every moment of doubt turned into resolve. Montage scenes play through my mind. Aunty smiling freely, the property secured, family reunions quietly celebrating, laughter and relief mingling as calm returns. I lean closer to the camera, eyes unwavering. If you've ever felt powerless, remember this. Patience, strategy, and careful planning can turn the tide. Stand for what's right, fight for those you love, and never underestimate the power of a determined heart. I lift the original will into the light, sunlight filtering through the window, and my voice is calm, resolute. The document glows in my hands, a symbol of truth reclaimed, justice served. The screen fades to contemplative silence. No words remain, only the echo of the journey, the lessons learned, and the quiet triumph over betrayal.